I have not seen this. I hope that Kugan and I agree on this. I do have feelings on it. Brian and I have wanted to sit down and talk about this a little bit. Uh, Rich Campbell, one of the larger people coming over from playing World of Warcraft. He plays other games as well, but World of Warcraft is kind of what he's been known for as he's come over into this space. Come over with Asmon and like as the OTK kind of comes over. I believe he came over first, and he got UCOB clear within the last week. My understanding is total prog took somewhere between like 20 and 40 hours, so roughly a third of the typical time that many groups experience. And he did that by playing well, learning fast, prepping and practicing, and running it with somewhere between 5 to 7. I don't know what all of his groups were. I wasn't there for all of it. Of an incredibly stacked deck. Lots of very talented players, lots of them being other content creators, and it made it into this collaborative event that, in my opinion, is the single largest community event that did not come with either A, content release, or B, official Square Enix involvement. Outside of some of the individual solo events, such as Asmongold joining the game is one of the more recent ones, I have not seen anything even remotely of this scale. As far as the breadth of people, the number of people is actually not what I would focus on. The wideness of people who've never been interested in UCOB, people who have never been interested in Twitch. Like, there has been just how broad of a diverse of a group of people that it was able to get over the course of RichCobb. And so the fact that we took an old piece of content and created something collaboratively interesting here is astounding. But in the process, we saw somebody get a UCOB clear with an experience that just is not scalable. Are there groups clearing UCOB and welcoming people in with talented, experienced players all the time? Yes. Are many of the people here who helped him helping people day in and day out? Yes. Rin was the raid lead, and Rin has gotten like 413 UCOB clears at this point. Is it scalable? No. So there's my context in case he doesn't get to it. Let's jump in.
To the content creators who made RichCobb happen, I fucking dare you to clear someone in this community once every 4 days like you did this undeserving individual. All you raiders crying about your ultimate canceled. Grow your own community instead of simping for fame. Hate. Didn't you buy a clear? To the content creators who made RichCobb happen, I fucking dare you to clear someone in this community once every 4 days like you did this undeserving individual. All you raiders crying about your ultimate canceled. Grow your own community instead of simping for fame. Hate. Didn't you buy a clear?
So, in theory, that person bought a clear and was confirmed to have done so. Did UCOB get cheated by Rich Campbell? UCOB being the unending coil of Bahamut, it can only be done as synced content. It is an ultimate fight. They take like 15 minutes, and if you wipe at the very end, you have to start all the way from the beginning. My understanding is his first time seeing the final phase, Golden Bahamut, that they hit in Rage, and they had to go back and do it again. Some groups get that down their very first try. Dave Greco's was far enough ahead that they got their first Golden Bahamut. It just went down that time. Otherwise, it's just heartbreaking because you have to reprog, and if you make mistakes, you don't necessarily get it down within the next couple pulls. Rich did a phenomenal job. We watched the clear video yesterday. Rich went down once. There was a question of if him or Sfia or both actually caused that death. If we're just going to try to point fingers and play the blame game, which is not how you get a UCOB clear. And they had a healer go down. Zeph went down once, and it came up with weakness and went down again almost immediately because weakness is hard. So they had a total of 4 deaths, I believe, in the clear video, if I remember correctly. Rich did a phenomenal job. He learned mechanics. He was baiting regularly and well. He did all of this while maintaining an incredible level of the the amount of learning and the amount of patience. So, by having other creators in there, what did that do for him? What was the advantage? First of all, he had incredible information available to him directly. He stayed after one time, and Mr. Happy helped teach him his rotation. If he needed additional information, Rin is an incredible raid lead and can do individual callouts for a person. Doesn't have to be just one person. He can do individual callouts for multiple people. And once that person learns what they're supposed to do, he'll pivot those callouts to help other people to help push through the phase. I was literally in a raid with Rin last night. It's amazing. But just know that once somebody else is struggling and you're not, you will no longer necessarily hear Ren callouts while he's taking care of that person. So you need to listen to those callouts and learn as fast as possible. Anything that he wasn't getting because of the way Ren, who was doing the main callouts, stated it, Todd, the raid lead, ended up actually being the one that helped him see it a different way. Sometimes you saw Mr. Happy, Def, Momo, like there was a ton of talented players, seeing Sphia in there at some point, seeing Leon in there at some point. I mean, the list, it's a stacked list. So the access to information was unbelievable. But there are plenty of players whose names are not as well known that are equally talented in this content, or at least close to it, as far as being able to teach you and enlighten you on where you're making mistakes, especially in the early phases of the fight. They made it past Twintanya within, I think, 2 or 3 polls as soon as they turned on voice comms. I sat in my very first UCOB poll last night with Rin and Todd, and we never got past Twintanya. The entire lockout did not get past Twintanya. Somebody made a mistake in the way we baited. Somebody made a mistake in the way we dropped twisters. Our total DPS output probably wasn't just crushing it. So even if you weren't the mistake that killed us, many of us probably, I know I personally, even in my cleanest pulls, could have been doing a better job of putting DPS on the boss, using mitigation to take pressure off the healers. Lots to learn. The advantage of having people that talented, that have those clears, where many of his groups, it was him and maybe 1, maybe 2 other people at some point that had not specifically cleared that fight before, is that it is less likely that if you are doing a job that is good enough to get past the phase, maybe it's not perfect, but past the phase, it is less likely that somebody else does something that literally wipes the party. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but it means it's less likely. So you prog faster. Does that cheapen the content? Does that cheapen it for Rich that it didn't take him the traditional 50, 70, maybe 100 hours that a blind prog group does that does not have a raid lead calling out specific timeline things? Does that cheapen it for him? He wasn't laying on the ground during the clear. He was not just laying there getting carried. So does it shorten the amount of time he spent in it? Yeah. Does it cheapen it? That's really a personal take. I will say that what Rich enjoys about Final Fantasy XIV is making it into content that he can share with his community and enjoy. I have seen him on his stream talk about the struggle with a game that he enjoys that doesn't make good content. Does he play it? Games that he enjoys that he specifically wants to share with his community. Does he play it off stream? These types of moments. He is very cognizant about what he does for a career choice and the people that he wants to share that content with. Does it make a more enjoyable raid experience to spend 2 to 3 times as long working through the exact same content? I don't think so. I think this made a better, more enjoyable viewing experience. Does this take away from people's clears that he got his weapon, that he's going to run around with a glowing weapon? Does it cheat it? No, because first of all, there's no way an event of that scale anytime in the near future that people are going to think back and go, I think that Rich did it totally blind with other unexperienced players and got a clear within the first lockout. I think he's probably the best machinist of all time. I think that it's amazing, and that anybody who else is a machinist that's cleared Ultimate is probably trash compared to Rich. Nobody's thinking that. Everybody is thinking Rich had a great time, was a blast to watch, and got his clear. End of statement. End of statement. Was he the number one parse? No. Was that his intent? No. He was making it into entertainment. Like, these very same people, Mr. Happy, Rin, Todd, were literally helping Dave Greco Art, a partnered streamer who is an artist, does art for Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering, and he is a content creator here on the platform that was doing UCOB progress on like Thursdays or Fridays, and literally like Tuesday after Rich's clear, a portion of the very same group that helped Rich progress through this fight was doing it with Dave. They didn't just do this to help Dave. Ren and Todd helped teach Savage and Ultimate fights as a full-time living. This is what they do for a job. So did they help Rich because he's large and he asked? Probably. Because it sounded really fun to collab with somebody that made it wildly entertaining. I was progging it last night and did not feel I could engage with my chat. I had to sit there and focus. It is astounding how good at being entertaining, engaging with his chat Rich can be while focusing. It's amazing. Did he cheat UCOB? No. Did he buy a clear? No. So I think at this point I'd like to watch Quasi's as well. We're just going to tack it on top. Is this streamer privilege and all of that? And we'll see if we can get some additional content. Quasi is another content creator that I first reacted to one of his videos where I disagreed with some of his premise, but I did not do a good job of prior to that saying how much I have respected how thoroughly he's cleared the content and how much I've enjoyed that. I said it, 22, 25 minutes into the video, but that's no. Let's open with that. And so I'd like to watch Quasi's response to this as well, and see if there's some context as Quasi goes through and gets his first clears through hard content and tries this for the first time, and has been incredibly thorough and respectful as somebody else that came from the WoW community and is now kind of really focused on Final Fantasy XIV content.
So the buzzwords overnight was Rich, Campbell clearing UCOB, and a lot of salty comments on
Same tweet.
Reddit, and when I woke up, my DMs exploded. Some of the screenshots here, you see, basically what was sent to me, and I was asked, what's my opinions on it, and instead of replying each individual DM, I think.
So, hope it was worth the clout. Clout. What does clout get you? What does this do? So, on the negative side, you could see it as people swinging for money. Like choosing to be involved in the Fat Black Chocobo campaign or a media tour or early access to an MMO, early release, taking sponsorships. You could see this as effectively by aligning yourself with a large audience streamer. You could see this as reaching out and trying to grab some growth off of their coattails. If that is the case, and that is the only reason they did it, which once again, these are people who have been clearing this content regularly and many of them were already fans regularly of Rich's content and have been talking positively about him since he first came over and have had a blast hanging out in his streams and staying up to date on his streams, and they're not really paid or get growth from saying that. But let's assume for a moment that's their sole reason. What this did is Rich brought in, along with any other brand new creator that's come into the space, has made a place where somebody who wants to see if this is a game for them and does not want to listen to a veteran, they want to see somebody else who is new, maybe is coming from where they came from, if they also came from WoW in this case, maybe somebody they already knew they liked, and so the only variable is the game changed. This has invited an incredible number of people into Final Fantasy XIV. And by extension, those people, as they get more involved in maybe wanting to hop into the game for the first time, maybe they're getting into the game for the first time, they're wanting to take on this style of content, they don't know the resources and they don't know the personalities that have been in the space that do have a lot of this knowledge that Rich lacks. This introduced a ton of people for the very first time. This and events like this, as they've been doing minimum item level no echo clears, as we've seen Sphia helping out Max Limit, as we've seen various videos, this has introduced people to a whole new wave of content creators for them. Rin streams have been substantially larger. Todd has been crushing it all year, basically. These events and events like this, such as the Fat Black Chocobo campaign, people like Zeppla going on Allcraft, have been incredible at inviting people into a space with a creator they know or with a sprout, if that's what they're looking for. And it has invited them into a number of communities in a way where if they like that person, they can hop over and they can follow them as well. And if they don't, it doesn't damage their view of 14. They go, you know what? They collabed with this. That person wasn't my taste, but the collab is over and complete, and I'll just stay where I am. Thank you. So was it worth the clout? The simple answer is yes. The simple answer is that networking and collabing is some of my favorite content to view. It's some of my favorite content to be a part of. And the idea that you would be successful in a career to any degree, and then you would have a chance to partner with somebody that you've watched yourself or somebody you've always enjoyed their content, or just meet somebody new who is a peer in the space, whether they are larger than you or not, is incredibly delightful. And the idea that you could share that and that your community could have fun, and that when you're focused on the content, that person's call outs and stuff could make this engaging. Being live during E12 Prague and UCOB, those are things that I'm really glad don't fall during my core stream hours, because I am not my core stream hours self. I'm not engaging. I'm focused on the content. It's a different side of my personality that I don't think makes good content. I don't hide any part of my personality in particular, but when I make content, I do focus on the part that I think makes the best content. And raiding, the version of me that raids, it doesn't necessarily fall in that. I don't have the ability to engage with chat. I don't have the ability to teach. I don't have the ability to talk about context, compare this to other life experiences I've had. Those are all things I enjoy, and I can't do any of that. And the idea that there's other callouts happening, there's other exciting things going on stream is really awesome. So before you even talk about how talented the people you're collabing with are, and the value of saying, I want to clear this, but I want to clear it in a way where my chat is not watching me do 40 hours of the exact same mechanic, because that's not fun to watch. So I'd like to be with a group that has done it before so that we learn very, very rapidly. Before you even factor for that, collabing is absolutely worth the clout. Networking is awesome. Collab events are fantastic. It's not a carry, but was it worth the clout to do something with Rich? Yes. Yes, it's awesome. We should all be glad that these people did it with Rich. And if anything, we should be bummed that there's not savage 24-mans or 48-mans that he's interested in doing right now, because there are more content creators that were not able to be in that party that I would also love to see interactions between these groups of people.
Figured, I just make a video, it's easier. Before I go into this video, the reason why I thought it would be interesting to discuss this is because I have actually seen similar treatment, even though I'm nowhere compared to Rich Campbell in terms of like...
This right here, if you drop Twisters on your party, there is nothing they can do about it. If you cannot do the mechanics required, if you are the other tank and you cannot handle tank swaps, mitigation, if the healer is struggling and, I wasn't getting my nation flash out when we were in E12, if you cannot do this, it's not necessarily if I had multiple multi-legends running with me. There are legends doing this in Party Finder regularly, and there are still groups that do not get clears. Rin and Todd have partnered together and done multiple lockouts with people and not gotten them a clear on fights substantially shorter than UCOB. We did not get a 12 clear last night, and I was with almost all best in slot or close to it. The vast majority of them had cleared the content. I think our initial party, only me and the other tank had not. We did not get a 12S clear, and I was with a stacked group. People think if I got that opportunity, I would be able to do that too. The opportunity, what you are seeing is 10 years to overnight success. You are not seeing that Rich learned incredibly fast because at one point he did raid and WoW. Was it long ago? Yes, but like riding a bicycle, he had habits that he immediately grained into. He did 20 or 40 hours of pulls in 4 days while also staying up late and watching guides, going back and watching VODs, staying after and learning his rotation with Mr. Happy. He stayed incredibly focused from pull to pull. I see people halfway through a lockout, 3/4 of the way through a lockout, finishing their first lockout, who are already losing focus, making mistakes that they weren't making in the early pulls. They're getting glazed over. The stamina that he had in raiding, that is a skill. It is easy to take for granted in streamers because they oftentimes develop that skill as part of their streaming. It is something that sets raiders apart. It is something that is required among world first or early in a patch prog raiders because of the number of hours they have to do over the short number of days. This is just total crap. I don't need to see the name. It doesn't matter if this person theoretically would have. The general tendency to believe this is total crap.
Like popularity or not, but even in my own streams, I've started seeing comments like, he cleared E12S, and he should have done it on min eye level with no echo, therefore he got carried by gear. Or being on ultimate weapon Uwu for day 3 and seeing jails and they go like, haha, he has one guy in his party that has cleared ultimates before, even though 7 other people has not cleared ultimates, getting carried. Streamer privilege. It's one of those things where I feel like it's very odd to me, because when new content creators come into the scene and they do MSQs, everyone's so excited to see them do MSQs.
Keep in mind, you don't have to share this with a content creator. There are statics that run this every other week and it just takes them months to get clears, but they get clears. There are people clearing this all the time with groups that are totally blind, with groups that have experience, with a content creator in there, whether they know it's a content creator or not. I have watched Todd raid with people that I don't think they knew it was Lava Todd in their group.
Everyone is so happy to see them like enjoy the MSQs and whatnot. But suddenly when Rich, a guy that has gotten so much hype around, his MSQ reactions, his trailer reactions, clears UCOB, suddenly there's a part of his community, the people who are watching him, being so excited about him, seeing the storyline, suddenly they turn the tables around and say, he don't deserve it, there's streamer privilege, and you start seeing like salty comments come out. In this video, there's really 3 points I'd like to make. The first major point I'd like to make is more of a rebuttal regarding, comments that Rich actually got carried. And don't get me wrong, I think his party does have some really, really, world-class players, and it's very clear from the roster. But some of the salty comments seems to imply that Rich basically did not have to do anything. Like, Rich literally showed up, he lied on the ground dead, starfish, and wait for the 7 people to carry him through the fight. Which is honestly something very different from what I've seen from his streams, unless my eyes are deceiving me. From what I see from his Twitch VODs, he at least spent something like at least 30 hours progging the fight, maybe close to 40 hours, where he was clearly not playing dead on the ground, and he was actually doing mechanics. And I think he is even spending time off stream actually working out things on his own. Then the last time I tuned into his streams, I actually saw him doing guides. Like, he was reading guides, seeing positioning requirements on UCOB.
And when he watched the guides on stream and realized that he was not able to take them thoroughly, he stopped and said, I will do this off stream, and then did. So Quasi's way more polite than I am, much more of a gentleman, much more likable in that way. No, not if my eyes are deceiving me. They're not. So if you think that he was laying dead on the ground, then you literally were not there. VODs are still up. Go check it out. The clear is posted over on Rin's channel. Go check it out. Rich Campbell's in-game name is Rich Campbell. There's no missing him. There is no eyes deceiving you. This is objectively measured, objectively documented. He was not laying dead on the ground, waiting to be carried. Just fact. The final kill was him limit breaking the end of the boss. If anything, this was centered on helping him get his clear. If anything, this was centered on him getting more responsibility put on him. And with the streamer privilege comes streamer expense. If he is not entertaining, that punishes him. If he gets his clear and people don't like it, anybody else who pays for a clear, anybody else who's in a group with other legends, they don't get this level of crap. The whole stakes with him being somebody of the profile he is gets dialed up. So, do the advantages get dialed up? Yes. But do the downsides that come with it get dialed up? Do the toxicity that can surround a lack of a clear dial up? Yes.
So does the fact that he played with 7 other players invalidate his hard work where he actually spent that 30 to...
Not all of which had gotten the clear. So I think they're looking at going back and doing Grim Cobb, and I think Grimlow, it sounds like, if possible, Rich might even be there for that. Might even help get a re-clear for somebody that helped start the group with him, was in the initial 8, I believe, and was not, if I remember correctly, I was there at the start, and was not... also had not cleared. No legend status.
40 hours progging? I don't think so. I think that is still worth giving him credit for. And others might argue that, yes, but if he played with other players, he would have taken longer. You know, like me, I suffered for X months or something like that. But look, at the end of the day, did the guy put in work? Yes. And did the guy do mechanics? Yes. So why should his achievement be worth anything less than the people who prog longer hours than him? That's the thing I don't understand. Like, why is there unhappiness about the fact that he got there so quickly? And I know what's coming in your mind. Your mind is like, aha.
So I understand this idea. So there's a metaphor. There's a biblical story actually, but like I'm not a super religious person, but it is a biblical story. I studied a number of religions and stuff throughout college, where basically there's a vineyard owner, and the vineyard owner goes out and kind of hires some day laborers at the start of the day. Hires a couple to start the work. And mid-morning realizes, holy crap, these workers are not going to get everything done. So he goes out and he hires a couple more workers. And at lunchtime, he realizes, oh my gosh, the work is still not getting done fast enough. And he goes and hires a couple more workers. And with just a couple hours left in the day, he realizes, I'm going to need to go out and hire a couple more workers. And each time, he says, I'll pay you fairly for the day's work. And they agree. So there is a standard wage in their area for what a day's work on a vineyard is, and they get to the end of the day, and all the workers line up in the order that they got there, and he starts with the people who arrived there last. And he walks up to them and he says, thank you for helping with the last couple hours of the day. And he pays them the equivalent of a full day's wages. Now the group that got there not that long before that are like, oh my gosh, but I was here longer than them. That's really exciting. And he walks with them and he says, thank you for helping me. And he gives them a full day's wages, the exact same amount of money. And he works his way all the way back in order, the order they got there. And by the time he gets to the people that got there at the start of the day and worked a full day, he gives them one full day's wages. Now, were those people cheated of any money because the group that got there with only an hour or two left in the workday got paid the same? No, they agreed at the start of the workday to do one full day's work for one full day's wages. They got exactly what they bargained for. And that does not cheapen their experience. They go home from the day, and had those people never existed, they worked a full day and got a full day's wage. They're good. They're paid. So this is not, they said, you know what, we're just going to give out the weapons to everybody that logs in on this day. This is somebody showed up later in the day than you and got paid the same, but they still worked hard. They still did their job. And the compensation was identical for all of you. It doesn't cheapen your experience. You got to get over that. Life is just, it's not fair, and it doesn't matter. You set out and said, if I want an ultimate weapon, this is what is available to me to get it, and you decided whether or not that was worth it. Based on your schedule, your lifestyle, how long you've been playing the game, the communities that you're involved in, and that is your choice to make.
But it's streamer privilege and he has 7 god tier players, and I'll get to that. But my point again is we've seen this happen with Rich now, which is like all positive, sunshine, rainbows when he does MSQs, and then suddenly when he does any for hard content, people turn on him. It's very similar to like whatever Asmongo is going through, right? Like he did MSQs, everyone was happy, he's playing the game, brought so much hype to the game, and then he starts doing harder content in the Alexander tier, and suddenly, you know, all these backseating, and you know, obviously, you know, we get all these like salty comments and whatnot. And I can almost imagine like, you know, if Asmongo went down the route of clearing ultimates, which I think he's still intending to, he's gonna face the same treatment. And is that really what we want? Like, can you imagine like spending time studying the fight and learning things on your own only for your efforts to be discredited? It doesn't feel great. Second point I'd like to bring up is it really a streamer privilege or a streamer's curse? Think about it from his perspective. Because the reality of this is, there's no winning for someone like Rich or Asmongold when they eventually do ultimates. And folks will argue that Rich has 7 other top tier rank 1 players carrying him through UCOB, and that's streamer privilege because, well, he's a known personality and he doesn't deserve the clear because of that. But let me ask you, if Rich actually went in with 6 other sprouts and he has one, like, you know, top tier world ranking player, pick any one of the 7 folks from his party as the veteran in that static, do you think people will back off the Rich got carried theme? No. I doubt so. People will still say that, oh, he has one like triple legend guy in his static and therefore he got carried because, well...
And keep in mind, to get legend status, last night I was in a 12 party and people were like, wow, you got a lot of legends with you. Dave got his legend the night before. You put him in a reclear, it's not going to go smoothly. He was operating on 3 hours of sleep, got his legend the night before. That's not like, oh, I got my legend once, that's it. The title is binary. If you got your legend 2 years ago or whatever, that's it.
He's there to guide and, you know, they can figure out mechanics just based on his experience. And now let's say Rich goes to the other end of the spectrum and does the extreme, which is he doesn't even form a static. He goes in blind. He just joins a random, you know, pickup group. What's going to happen? Well, they're going to say, streamer didn't even do his necessary due diligence, didn't do his homework, didn't study mechanics, and he expects to walk in and just clear UCOB thinking that it's going to be a stroll in the park, doesn't respect mechanics, wild refugee mentality. And I've already seen like all these 3 different variations pan out in, you know, various streams now when as new content creators come to Final Fantasy XIV. So for the people saying that Rich has streamer's privilege, the question really is it really a privilege or is it really a curse? Because I think no matter what he does, he will face criticism. And
I mean, it's a first world curse, right? So like to say it's a curse, you know, that's very much people complaining, and now I'm famous and I have millions of dollars and it's just so hard to take care of my mansion. So like it's a first world problem, but it is a problem. You know, there has been a number of psychology studies on like Olympians and how hard it is after they've spent their entire life training for one moment. They get to that moment and then that's it. And if they have mental struggles with the fact that they've sacrificed everything in their life for one goal that they might achieve or they might not, people go, oh, that's so hard for you. Gold medalist, so hard. And so like it is a privilege and a curse. It can be both. I think he's hitting on a really valid point here.
There'll be salty comments like, why can't we just be happy for the fact that he just cleared the content and let's just, you know, celebrate the fact that, you know, the community has more attention now. And the third point I'd like to bring up is that even if you 100% believe that Rich has streamer's privilege, let me ask you, is it the same in real life? Rich Campbell worked hard at being a personality online. He built a brand online. That's an asset that he has built up in his life. And the asset that he's built up as a personality online, he's using that to pay dividends in terms of helping him find people to coach him and to play alongside him. And yes, these are very good players. But isn't it the same in real life where people spend time networking, getting to know important people in various industries, and you do well in your career because you know people? Why are we getting salty about this just because Rich did not have to suffer like...
Right. It is 10 years to overnight success. You are seeing somebody who is large on the platform because he's good at making content. He has spent a ton of time being aware of how to be better as an entertainer. And it is not something that he got overnight. You know, there have been other talented players coming over, clearing the content, much in the same way he has, as Sprouts. And while they have had varying levels of success, if they've chosen to try to create content around that, Very few, if any, have the level of success that Rich does, even for a brief moment. And that is because he's doing something they're not. And that can feel very threatening. It can make you feel very defensive that you're somehow inadequate compared to him. But you're just at a different part in the journey. For many of these people, they get into content creation surrounding 14. This is their first time. As opposed to he's been shoutcasting, he's been generating content, he's been doing this. He's likely been interested in this style of presentation. It would not shock me to find out that there were times he was outlandishly loud and stuff as a kid. He has likely been developing this skill set close to or his entire life, and you're seeing the end result. You're seeing somebody in their final moment. You're seeing somebody at the actual championship game, and you're ignoring everything they've sacrificed and done along the way. So even if this is a privilege, even if this is just this gift that he was just given for being large, how did he get large? How did he get large? He got large on making MSQ with him something that people could not click away from. He got large by doing min item level clears and messing around in content prior to this where people wanted to see him do an ultimate and were willing to stay and watch him prog an ultimate. He got large by creating spectacle around it.
Static disbands or reprocs because, he has way better players. It's easy to say, he has streamer's privilege, therefore he formed, a static that's, such a strong lineup. But do you see maybe the multiple years that he has put into building his own brand and personality?
Which, unfortunately, a lot of what he gets associated with is as a founding member of OTK. OTK is basically seen as people carried by Asmon. They're not allowed to stand independently of him. They're not allowed to be people that Asmon respected because they also generate good content. It is seen as a result of this. It is seen as buddy of Asmon, friend of Asmon. And if I was friend with Asmon, I would also have 20,000 subscribers and 10,000 people watching me. I don't know how to say this in the polite way that Quasi would. Then do it. Then do it. So, did he get introduced? Sure. Casey Neistat over on YouTube used to sometimes shout out creators in his vlogs, and it would boom their subscribers. That doesn't make people stay. So is a shout out an incredible moment? Yes. Brian and I were featured on the front page of YouTube as the creator on the rise at one point. Creator on the rise, statistically, on average, when you compare a channel that has gotten creator on the rise to a channel that has not, statistically on average, results in growth. It doesn't hand it to you. And I'll tell you, there are people who've gotten creator on rise who grew way faster and way bigger than us through making better content. Content that served more people, content that was better edited, content that was better selected as far as topic, title, thumbnail, description, tags. They just were better than us. And some of it was better due to things outside of their control. They picked a topic that blew up the next day and we didn't. That's luck. But luck is preparedness meets opportunity. They were probably regularly picking better topics than us, and they happened to pick one that hit that time. Brian and I have posted now at this point across our Twitch exports channel and our main channel, his personal channel and my personal channel, not his bunch of other personal channels. We've crossed over 3,500 posts on YouTube. And we're nowhere in the ballpark, the size or the growth pace of multiple other creators on the platform that even cover similar topics, similar games, similar formats to us. Now, I could get mad. Oh, well, they were given this opportunity. They got to go do this. Or I could realize, no, they're probably doing something I'm not. And the opportunity's following. Getting featured on the front page is something I've seen people like Vlogbrothers and Philip DeFranco talk about not actually increasing analytics that much. It's the symptom, not the starting point. So I have to ask myself, what are they doing better than me? Not because I want to be them, but because I want to take what is working for them and I want to say, what about that is applicable to me so that I can learn to be a better me? I don't want to be Zepla. We started around the same time creating content. She's substantially larger than me on Twitch. She's substantially larger than me on YouTube. There is a huge number of factors driving that. how early she went full-time, the types of content she covers, the level of content she puts out. She puts out more than me and Brian combined. It's incredible. Why is she bigger than me? At a simple level, because she's better than me. Does that mean that every single individual person will prefer her content over mine? No. Does it mean that matters? No. But does it mean that I have more to learn from her than her from me? Probably. And that's fine. Rich is not large just because of Asmon. He was doing things right that Asmon saw. Asmon was maybe a multiplier, a signal boosting effect. But if he had no talent, if he was just a childhood friend of Asmon's and was boring as crap to watch on camera, never said anything funny, never responded well, did not learn content well, could not make content ranging from slow story to fast story to literally sitting in town having a dance party to content as intense as Ultimate, all entertaining, would he be where he is? No. People click on his stream, maybe because of opportunities, maybe because he's the top person in the directory, or because Asmon, he's a friend of Asmon's, or whatever. Maybe. But they stay more than 30 or 40 seconds, right? If you've ever seen a raid here on Twitch, that number spikes and then usually falls, plummets. They go over because of the recommendation, because they're literally carried over by the platform. And then they realize, this isn't for me. He's big because he's good at his job. And if you don't like it, that's fine. There may be musical artists and actors you don't like as well. It doesn't mean they're not good at their job.
Online? Probably not. It's easy to say he got there easy, but you think it's hard being Rich, Campbell? It probably is hard. I mean, think about how many content creators actually succeed, right, at the very top tier. So those are my 3 main points, but I'm not done yet. I have one final takeaway. And the most important thing that I think we need to get into our heads is this. This is really critical. This whole fiasco of new content creators coming to Final Fantasy XIV, whether it's, Rich clearing UCOB, whether it's Asmongold eventually doing ultimate raids, regardless, this kind of events where all these content creators are banding together to help, people like Rich and Asmon, it does drive buzz. It drives buzz, it drives curiosity about Final Fantasy XIV, and it shines a spotlight on the game. And guess what? Who benefits? The community benefits. Why? Because as more interest in the game develops, it just means that more players are flocking to Final Fantasy XIV. That also means that Yoshi P and team is more successful, they have bigger clout at Square Enix, they have more money, and naturally that will be reinvested back into the game. And so far from the track record I've seen, I think they are reinvesting it into the game. Reddit, and he goes in blind. He just joins a random. There's such a strong lineup. But do you see maybe the multiple years that he has put into building, go eventually doing ultimate raids? Regardless, this content creators coming to Final Fantasy XIV, whether it's Rich clearing UCOB, whether it's Asmongold eventually doing ultimate raids, regardless, this kind of events where all these content creators are banding to...
Yeah, so, sorry, I clicked around there. Professional streamer. Quasi is hitting on an incredible point here, and while, throughout his journey, because he's coming at it from a different lens, he's coming in now as opposed to I've been here since A Realm Reborn, there are times where I either disagree with his take, I think he's comparing all of the history of World of Warcraft to a limited viewpoint of Final Fantasy because he's comparing everything he's seen. Here, what he's saying will only be more true, in my opinion, the longer he's a member of the community. He's saying, from my perspective so far, I think that they have done an incredible job of investing the resources given to them. I believe he's gone back and watched some of the documentaries surrounding the game at this point. He's cleared a ton of the content. I can only say, as somebody that has been covering live letters for 5 years and all this, I can only say, him saying this is true is only more true the longer your time in this community. He will only feel stronger about this the longer he plays based on their track record so far. Yes. The amount of resources to the game benefit the game. It's how we got an EU data center. It's how we're getting an Oceanic data center. It's how we are getting large-scale swinging content such as Bosja, Eureka, Deep Dungeon, Ishgard Restoration. These are things that are additive, and yes, there have been times that we've simplified the number of dungeons per patch and all that, but we've done that all while getting new races, new classes. Things like a jump puzzle in Stormblood. Like, we have gotten an incredible amount of content added to this game, and that is because of resources. This is something that, this is good for everybody. This is good for everybody. Getting people to come try out the game. The number of UCOB party finders has spiked. Interest in UCOB, interest in the Necromancer title. As these have been things that people are being made aware of, as they're seeing it done on streams, interest has only been rising. So for people that say, I can't find a UCOB party because I'm not in a guild that does it, I'm not in a Discord or a Reddit community, I don't want to go find one, my schedule's all over the place, I don't have time for this. There are more and more people, which means there are probably people who share the same sorts of experience in the game, the same sorts of skill level you have, the same sorts of time restraints you have, the same sort of schedule restraints you have, and they may be in exactly the same spot. So as more people come to this, it is more likely that you find a group that you align with, that you get along with personality-wise, and can be something you share this experience with. So this does trickle down. It does require some action on those people's part. You cannot just sit around and wait. Rich did not sit around and wait. He reached out to Lamatad, who he had already previously been interacting with, and said, can you help me organize a group for this? That's my understanding of how that played out on Twitter. And so there was action here taken by Rich Campbell. There is action here where he took steps to prepare him for this. He reached out to people. He catered to their schedule. Could he have cleared the Savages first? Yeah. Could he have finished at MSQ first? Yeah. This was a plan, and then he catered to that plan. He pulled incredible hours to be there at those times. Anytime I have been offered to go be in somebody who's taken the time to organize a group or be in a community that can fill a group, you guys have seen me stream in hours I don't normally stream. I was live till 4 a.m. last night. Chris, why are you live so late? Because this is my opportunity to play with people that have done the parts I can't do myself. Organizing the freaking group. Leading the freaking group. And so I have gone and made myself available during literally whatever time is best for them. It has required action on his part.
Together to help, people like Rich and Asmon. It does drive buzz. It drives buzz, it drives curiosity, and it shines a spotlight on the game. And guess what? Who benefits? The community benefits. Why? Because as more interest in the game develops, it just means that more players are flocking to Final Fantasy XIV. That also means that Yoshi P and team is more successful, they have bigger clout at Square Enix, they have more money, and naturally that will be reinvested back into the game. And so far from the track record I've seen, I think they are reinvesting it into the game. So ultimately, all these will benefit the community, and these are the very same people who also enjoy Final Fantasy XIV that's making the salty comments, in my opinion. So shouldn't we take a different perspective and look at this whole thing and say, this is really a blessing for the community? Congratulate Rich, Campbell, and the 7 people, the other great.
And do what you can control. In life, there's 10 or 15 factors affecting how anything came out. Whatever the number is. And a couple of those are outside of your control. Maybe you didn't have the resources at the time. You weren't asked. You weren't available. You see people getting into content creation and they say, well, I don't have this knowledge base, or I don't have this level of camera or computer, or I think that people that are from this group of people are more successful than me. I see in my chat people saying like, oh, well, female streamers have this advantage, when actually the statistics on the earning potential and on the average watch time per gender still favors men almost identically. Even in Uber and Lyft, men are actually still able to earn the same amount here in the US as the traditional wealth gap between men and women. So you would think something that's determined by an app actually results in it getting rid of the gender gap. That seems like the advantage of app-based things like Lyft and Uber, that you don't get to pick your driver, and yet men, for a series of reasons, actually still out-earn women at almost an identical rate as they do in the traditional workplace. So the other thing is people stereotype the things outside of their control, and sometimes they literally are not true. They're literally not true. The female US soccer team went out and assumed there was a wealth gap, and it turned out there wasn't. Like, it's, you assume these things are true because assuming that things outside of your control are the core cause and the only cause feels good. It feels good to blame the things I can't control. But until you have removed everything you can control, you cannot blame those, nor is there anything healthy or reasonable. I mentioned Zeppela as somebody who started in the ballpark at the same time as us, covers the same similar types of content as us, on the same platforms, has similar style video types, similar community interactions with the way she treats her community. In many ways, she is a parallel to us on its own, and I could focus on, well, she's a girl and I'm not. I can't do anything about that. So if that is a factor, I have no ability to control it. I don't know if it is, but I have no ability to isolate it and then change it. It cannot be a variable that I swap out. So there's no reason to dwell on it. It doesn't freaking matter. What I can do, however, is I can say, what does she do better than me? What does she do as far as how she chooses topics, how she presents topics, how she edits, when she posts, how she promotes her posts? What does she do with her stream schedule? What does she do with the times that she scales up the amount of content she's producing versus not? How does she deal with adversity in her life when she has dealt with things with family and friends where she has gone through days that are hard days, and it would be easy to just not make content? Because content is not, it's not like, oh my God, I woke up and everything in my life is perfect and I just want to make content and it's so easy. No, she has had adversity. How does she overcome that? Her adversity is different than mine, but what can I learn from that? Those are things I can control. Those are things I can get better at. And I'd like to think that since I went full time at the beginning of this year, that I have gotten better at some of them and that I have a long way to go from here. You have got to learn. The people making these comments, the people that are saying he was carried and are mad about this, have got to learn to focus on what they can do and let the rest fall away. Fun detected, I'm mad is just not a sustainable lifestyle.
Players that has made it happen, and kudos to them for making it happen. Because at the end of the day, this is a good thing for the community. So there you go, my quick take on, Rich Campbell and the whole UCOB matter. I do not know whether this video will incite more pitchforks, like whether there'll be more twit-longers, but long story short, if I do result in more pitchfork sales, then maybe I can get a pitchfork sponsor. I already have a VPN sponsor and a very kind table sponsor. Big shout out to NoPing and Omnidesk. But if there's any pitchfork emporiums out there that might like to sponsor this video, I'll be more than happy to talk to you in the future. But jokes aside, folks, this discussion is only possible because, again, the game is doing well. So maybe we should just take heart in the fact that the game is doing well and there's so much buzz about the game in the lull period and we are not that far away from Endwalker. This all bodes well for the game. Just be happy for Rich, be happy for the community, and just move on. So that's all my thoughts on this issue. If you like the video, do subscribe to the channel. Although I'm sure there'll be some folks that will be proceeding to the Pitchfork Emporium. And hopefully I'll be a beneficiary of, a Pitchfork sponsor. Have a great day, folks, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Quasi. Thank you, Coogan, for opening up the discussion around this. If you can't tell, I fall very on one side of this. I'm very bothered by this idea that people look at somebody else's achievement and say, if I was given an identical set of circumstances, I could do the same thing. First of all, that's not possible. It's not beneficial to explore that line of thought. Second of all, anytime I've seen people kind of be given those opportunities, it has turned out generally that the answer is no. The answer is no, no. There was something you weren't seeing. You made a baseless set of assumptions, and given the exact same opportunities that they were given, you did not take them. And what that ultimately means is that, Rich being kind of carried by Asmon looks like this incredible boost, but what happens is you're streaming and somebody raids you with 40 or 50 people. Do you retain all 40 or 50? Do you pick up 40 or 50 follows? No, most of them leave. Why? Because something about your audio's off. Something about your content is off. You were AFK during the time. You don't stream on a consistent schedule, so you don't stick around. And so there's all these things, and those are things you can control. Those are things you can adjust for. And so until you get better at those, like why would adjusting that number from 50 people in a raid to 1,000 people in a raid make that better? But that's a hard way to live your life. It's hard to actively choose improvement all the time. And people that do it get further. They do. People that put in the work get further than they would have otherwise. Do they get far as everybody else? I don't know. There are systematic ways that things are held down in every system. As a white male, I'm distinctly aware of that. And there have been advantages in my life where I have gone into jobs without a resume and gotten the job. I literally walked in and he said, "I don't see your resume in the stack." And I said, "That's because I didn't give you one." And I got that job. I'm aware that I've had some unfair advantages in life. I'm aware of that. But I'm also aware that what I can control is take advantage of the things that have been given to me, shore up the weaknesses that I have control of, and let the rest fall away. And that is something that everybody can do. So when we have a chance to make a systematic change, when we have a chance to vocalize that the Fat Black Chocobo campaign did not do a great job of involving all communities. And while I saw a version of those events where I was not included, I did not see a version where some of the people that were not included didn't make the cut if I was in charge of making the list from a different perspective. I saw why I don't make it. I can see a number of reasons why I don't make it. But there were other people that I couldn't see those reasons, and the lack of communication around it and the choice of words around it made me frustrated. And we vocalized those concerns. And within this community in particular, in Final Fantasy XIV, when we vocalize those concerns, we have a history of being heard. Heard does not mean they have to do what we ask for. They are not hostage to us. It does, however, mean that they listen, they contemplate, and they move forward. Sometimes that means they say, "Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to honor that request." Other times they say, "I'm going to only be able to honor that request in part." And other times they say, "That's great feedback, and we're going to implement it in its entirety." And we have seen a variety of that over the course of this game. Offer that feedback and move forward. So you've got to just do that. I don't know why this Rich Campbell thing has turned into such an issue of whether or not he was carried. I don't know why it matters. If he clears the newest Ultimate before it's been out for a while, is that different because it's not an old fight? Does he have to do it with people who haven't cleared it before or have never cleared an Ultimate? I don't know what this arbitrary set of rules is. I do know that as far as organizing a set of events, my understanding is that, Rich doesn't have the connections within the community yet. He simply has a large interest in running UCOB. And my understanding is he reached out to Todd on Twitter for this, and Todd organized the group. Ren did the primary callouts, and a ton of other talented creators made time and showed up, whether or not they were live. And some of them weren't even creators, they're just other talented players. And so what I would say is, we owe somebody an immense thank you, probably a series of people an immense thank you. If I had to pick one or two, outside of obviously Rich for being the center of attention here, I would say, Todd and Ren are the ones in this particular circumstance that jump out as the two biggest thank yous that we owe for both raid leading and raid callouts. But there was an immense amount given in time by Sphia and Mr. Happy and Zeph and Momo and more. I'm sure I'm leaving out names. It was incredible. And so to organize an event like this, much in the way that I have thanked Frosty and all those involved in the World First coverage, to see the community step up, especially right now during a time that really the content for the game isn't really updating. There's nothing between 5.55 of any real lasting merit until 6.0 that could hold this level of attention. So to generate large amounts of interest in the game where people can come in, you've given them something to watch, and during that they can ask questions, they can get the link to the free trial, they can decide whether or not this game's for them. During that, giving a place, an organic place for the community to grow is a gift. And any and all people that were involved in making this a gift, whether they were just active in their chats and helping answer questions, because none of these content creators could, if they have just been active in Reddit communities or helping sprouts in game who are coming over as a result of this, any and everybody around the community that as this event or as something from this event has trickled down has done a job in welcoming more people into the community, in sharing what they know, and in helping people have wonderful experiences in Final Fantasy XIV is owed a debt of gratitude. And we'll never have a way to thank them all. But if you see somebody that you know had an impact, say thank you. This is. I haven't been part of a community that has a community event without any new piece of content or any official involvement from the game maker themselves that has had this level of impact and generated this amount of content for this diverse of a set of viewers, of people that both play the game, don't play the game, new, veteran, and that's really astounding. And as a viewer and a viewer alone, I was thrilled to get to take part in it, to get to be in chat when I could, to get to go back and watch the clears. Absolutely astounding. Thank you guys.